Hello, and thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much to the London Christmas Party Show for organising such a fabulous day of online content for us all to enjoy when we can't obviously all be together in person. By way of introduction, I'm Roz. I'm from Story Events. I head up Venue Search London and Story Bespoke. For those of you that perhaps don't know, Story Bespoke is an end-to-end event management company, and Venue Search London is, as the name suggests, a free venue finding company specialising in London. We are incredibly passionate and absolutely love what we do and working in events. And you know, we're very grateful to be in this industry. However, that said, we of course understand and completely appreciate the challenging and uncertain times that we find ourselves in today. However, we do remain cautiously optimistic that Christmas parties and events in general will be able to take place in some form in maybe later on in this year. What I would say is we are finding venues are being flexible with their COVID terms, as it were, and postponement terms, allowing clients to feel more confident in being able to make decisions for sort of later on in the year. And we are also encouraged that sort of some of the early guidance seems to suggest that quite soon we might be able to even undertake some sort of socially distanced site visits, which would be fantastic for us to sort of see how things can start to move on from here. So today's presentation is very much based on what we really hope we'll be able to enjoy and see this coming winter time. So we are running through the 2020's best London venue Christmas themes that we wanted to share with you, and what we hope we'll all be able to enjoy together come December. So alongside me today presenting, I've got Eve and Claire from Venue Search London, and they'll run you through the venues that we want to run through with you, and then Chloe and Lulu from our Story Bespoke team, who want to talk through how we might look to enhance these events and perhaps different theming and entertainment ideas that you might wish to look at doing. So without further ado, I will pass you over to Eve, who will run through our first venue.
Hi everyone, so our first venue is the Vault, which is based in Waterloo, inside the famous graffiti tunnel that I'm sure many of you have visited in the past. In terms of capacity, this venue can host up to 600 for a standing reception, and then depending on the layout, anything between 230 to 250 for a seated dinner. This year their theme is the Yuletide Ball, and it's very much taken inspiration from wizards and witches and potions. So if you know the Vaults at all, they're very immersive and innovative, and they come from a theatre background, so they always go that little step further, and it was always a little bit darker. In terms of packages, they run from about £180 per person, and they include all the kind of normal catering that you would expect from a Christmas party package. But one thing that they kind of also include is their live performances, their interactive actors, and also like just the sheer amount of production, lighting, and theming.
Great, and so as Eve said, this is a particularly theatrical venue when it comes to the realms of possibilities. It's quite raw and stripped back, as you can see with the exposed brickwork on these photos. So you've got loads of opportunity there to build it into something even more magical. We're aware that this year they're turning the top left image into a Forbidden Forest inspired room. And why not put your company's gifting in there for them to find in like a mysterious and kind of magical experience. Other kind of elements that we wanted to make you aware of is the banqueting option. This will be done on long tables that you can see in the right hand image, hosted in the downstairs room though, which is shown in your bottom right hand corner. And this is a great way to have like carving stations and really feel like you're back at that kind of school dinner, everyone's in it together environment, which I think is really fun and, like Eve said, quite immersive. My advice with this particular venue would be it's not for the faint-hearted. They really throw you in at the deep end. If you've got a company, and we've kind of thrown a number of Christmas parties here in the past, and I think it works best with companies who are really willing to throw themselves in and get involved with everything that it has to offer as a space.
Okay, so moving on to the ski lodge, which is located at the Montague in the Gardens Hotel in Bloomsbury. It does return every year, and only with the slightest of changes and tweaks, just because it is so popular every year. They've got a gorgeous deck and outdoor terrace, which is what they turn into the ski lodge. And as you can see from the images in front of you, it's got a gorgeous kind of feature bar. You've got all sorts of things like spiced mulled cider, mulled wine, hot chocolates, and also a huge variety of different flavoured schnapps and vodkas, just to get the full après-ski experience. It can take up to 200 people for a standing reception, so very nice atmosphere. And you've also got plenty of blankets, heaters, and then just inside the conservatory, you've got the Lanson Winter Lounge, which also comes with open fireplaces and more blankets to keep everyone warm. Their packages are really very reasonable. You're looking at about £110 per person, which includes very generous menus, unlimited drinks, as well as a complimentary after party and DJ as well, if you'd like to continue on into the night.
So as Claire mentioned, the theming for the Montague Gardens is purely based in the outside terrace. So an idea that we had would be to continue that amazing theming in the event spaces. Many hotels obviously do work on minimum spends, but that doesn't mean you can't then get personalised packages for your event, including sort of the catering, entertainment, staffing, theming, all sort of put together to, you know, continue that après-ski theme right into the end. Initial ideas that we did have is that you could have twig arch trees, or sort of creating an entrance walkway, perhaps some bespoke florals, sprayed branches, pine cones, snow dusting, and then the vintage ski racks and wooden toboggans, obviously, you know, really hinting through to the theme again. The chocolate fountain is always a great hit, and perhaps even alpine arcade games for those that want to get involved a little bit further. There's lots of different ideas that we can provide to kind of create that theme and get everybody involved.
Okay, so sticking in the Bloomsbury area, we have the Fountain Room, which is just a short walk from Russell Square. And this is very much a large Christmas party venue, and it can host up to 500 guests standing, or about 350 for a seated dinner dance. The venue is actually run by Awesome Events, who are really experienced when it comes to kind of seasonal parties. They have lots of summer and Christmas venues across London. The theme this year that they're going for is Diamonds Are Forever, so very much James Bond theme, lots of glitz and glamour. In terms of packaging, they normally run from about £100 per person, but it depends on the day of the week or the package that you're going for. One thing that stands out from this package is that they do include a lounge singer, as well as a photo booth, which often is an additional cost for a Christmas party.
So with this being a marquee structure that comes around every Christmas, we're very confident that you're in safe hands when it comes to the structural and kind of included elements. So for instance, if you look in the bottom right image, you've got a sound wall above the DJ area, which means that all of the sound is kind of captured there and doesn't intrude on other conversations that want to happen in the larger space. And that can, you know, be an issue when you've got vast marquee spaces that pop up over Christmas and summer. To bear this in mind, obviously, as Eve explained, it's quite a cost-effective option, which means that the theming is relatively basic. However, what this does give you an opportunity to do is make it really bespoke to your company and your ideal Christmas party. So for instance, you've got a star cloth in the ceiling. Yes, that could be Diamonds Are Forever. It could also be inside a snow globe, or it could be a traditional Christmas experience, or even the Alpine Lodge. So there's just a number of possibilities that make this space really, really viable. Another thing I'd like to kind of flag to anyone kind of looking at this space is there is another marquee structure just next door, which is also run by Awesome, called Bloomsbury Big Top, slightly larger, slightly different offering. We as an agency make sure that guest management from Russell Square, although it's only a short walk, is completely handled, so there's zero confusion, and make sure that everybody ends up at the right Christmas party.
Okay, so the next one we're moving on to is the King of Hearts Ball and the Wondrous Wonderland, which is taking place at 8 Northumberland Avenue this year. 8 Northumberland is such a popular option every year. It's considered the most central venue in London, and it's located just beside Charing Cross Station and Embankment Station, so very, very easy to get to. They've got 2 floors, so downstairs we've got the old billiard room, which can take approximately 250 people for a seated dinner, and then upstairs we've got the ballroom, which can take up to 500, so almost double the amount. Now they are theming both floors thoroughly, as they usually do, but they're going along a kind of Alice in Wonderland-esque theme this year for both floors. You can take the venue, each floor exclusively, or you can take the entire venue for your party. We actually attended their kind of grand unveiling of their vegan menu this year, although that's not a necessity. You have a wide choice. But they're really going for things are not as they seem this year. So you might be served up with something that looks like a peach, or something that looks very different to how it'll taste. And when you cut into it, you'll realize it's something very different. So it's a very interactive menu. And they're also going for kind of giant objects, miniature objects, just kind of twisting reality in order to make you feel like you're at the King of Hearts ball, or kind of lost in the maze at the Mad Hatter's tea party.
So as Claire mentioned, with the fact that it is an Alice in Wonderland theme, it feels very nostalgic and something that I think people will get really excited about and want to get involved with. There's various different ideas that we had to kind of elevate the theme. You know, we've hosted a number of events at this venue and we've always had amazing feedback. Their initial production is fantastic. So you could just add a few additional touches to kind of make it a little bit bespoke to yourself. Perhaps, you know, a few signs as guests enter, sort of saying follow the white rabbit, or adding some bespoke florals. But you know, you could add in colours that might be specific to your company branding, or you can just go down sort of the more traditional route depending on what your preference is. At a number of events we found that doing or hosting actors to meet and greet guests work really well. So perhaps in this case we could have the king himself meeting and greeting the guests, wandering around and getting to know everyone a little bit further. Additional touches also could be sort of mirrors, playing cards, large to miniature props as well. And then from a catering perspective, you know, you could have a bespoke cocktail on arrival, perhaps the Red Queen, we could call it, or then the themed dessert station. So we could add additional props to that to really make it bespoke, really get our tea stuck into the fact that of the theme, which is a really, really fun one for everyone to enjoy.
Okay, so now we have one at Shakespeare's Globe, which is based in London Bridge. The venue can take about $350 for a seated dinner dance and around $450 for stand-in reception. This year, their theme is fairy tale grim, so they're very much taking inspiration from old folk tales and enchanted woodlands, but they're doing it in a little bit more of a dark and twisty way. Package-wise, they are a little bit higher, they're about £180 per person, but what I would say is that in terms of their production and their theming and even their catering, is done to an extremely high standard compared to kind of your run-of-the-mill Christmas venues.
So the real draw for this particular venue is it's a venue of 2 halves. You've got the iconic Globe, where you can host a drinks reception in the historical exhibition that is hosted on the mezzanine. In that particular area, you can really delve into the history of the space and understand its importance. And then, much like Eve just said, the Underglobe, which hosts the magic and the mystery and the real theatrical element of this venue. I think the event of 2 halves can work really well, because what you can do is bring a little bit of a little bit of downstairs into the space upstairs. So for instance, walkabout actors, and they could slowly, drip feed groups down to their tables, where the fully comprehensive packages, I'm sure you can see by the images, and as Eve's explained, their production and theming, they really do go all out and offer you a real change in scene. We can obviously enhance that. They have a centralised oak tree in the venue, if you've not been there before, which we can hang chandeliers off of, or work with the venue's existing theming to bring that to life a little bit more. Where they also have a single fixed rigging point, which you can see in the top right-hand image for everybody. They've currently got a chandelier hanging there, but talking about the walkabout actors, you could have an aerial artist appear from there that could be playing the character of Snow White or another Grimming fairy tale character. The elevating the evening with entertainment is something that's really nice to do when you've got such a transformed space, because it will break up dinner and can make sure that there's no lulls for your guests throughout the evening as they admire the theming, but then also have their attention drawn elsewhere. So a really lovely option. The final thing I would like to say about this is it's theatrical, but it's good for a traditional audience. Don't be put off at all, because it's got that kind of duality in nature, and it's good for people who are used to a sit-down dinner experience.
Okay, so our next one is Carnival, which is a totally different theme to the others that we're looking at, not your traditional Christmas theme, and it's taking place at Evolution London, which was formerly known as Battersea Evolution London. It is still located in Battersea, however, they have now made it a permanent structure and therefore rebranded it as Evolution London. Now, this is one of Smart's Christmas parties, and I mean, they go all out with their theming. It really is an amazing thing to see. Obviously, this year they're going along and they've kind of brought together a lot of elements from Latin American celebrations and festivals, including things like Day of the Dead. There's plenty of samba dancing, there's tropical menus and drinks available. They do package everything up, which is great, but there are also plenty of add-ons that you can experience as well, just really to make it as you wish it to be. It is a very, very large venue, so you're looking at up to 4,000 people for a standing reception, or around 2,000 for a seated dinner. However, of course, knowing that this year we're probably going to want to spread out a little bit, it is actually a really great idea to have a larger Christmas venue for slightly fewer numbers, which obviously we can work together with them on the packages, just to make sure that everyone gets that little bit of space that they might be needing this year.
So as Claire mentioned, Smart really do create amazing in-house packages. We've hosted again a number of events with Smart Group, and this is no exception. That said, there obviously are different upgrade options that you could consider. So Evolution London does have the opportunity to have dodgems at your event, which is a massive hit for many. So that could be a nice little upgrade. There's casino tables, or perhaps adding in sort of late night spirit packages or late night snacks. After dinner spirits is always sort of nice to come in perhaps at 9 p.m. for everyone to kind of let their hair down a little bit. So there's lots of different upgrade options. There is a fantastic in-house package, but you can then make it a little bit more bespoke depending on what you'd like to include.
So here we have Tobacco Dock, which is based in Shadwell and is really accessible from both the city and the West End. One thing that's really great about this venue is that they have multiple rooms, and all of their rooms completely vary in size. So they have rooms that kind of go from 200 stand in all the way up to 2,000 stand in, and rooms where they take 200 for a seated dinner, again, all the way up to 1,000 for dinner. So again, as Claire previously mentioned, we're not 100% sure what's going to be the kind of guidelines in terms of social distancing this year, but this venue has so much flexibility in terms of that, and maybe perhaps in the past where you felt maybe you were a little bit too small of a party to consider this venue, it may now be an option for you, which is fantastic. Their theme this year is going to be the Roaring Twenties. Their package ranges from about £130 per person. In terms of inclusions, they will have a live band. obviously all the theming, but one thing that I love that they're including is their kind of survivor's breakfast. So this is for the guys that are completely committed to the party. They're the last ones on the dance floor, and they might just need that little bit of a midnight snack to get them home, which I think is fantastic.
Now, to touch on the Roaring Twenties theme, for anybody that is an event prof or can count, you can see that it's 100 years on from the 1920s, and this theme's been battered around quite a lot. However, the reason that we wanted to touch on Tobacco Dock, as Eve said, is because it has the opportunity to do shared parties, but also private parties with lots of multiple entrances. It used to be a shopping centre, so if you can kind of envisage that, you've got your own entrances to different spaces, and you can really play around when you've got that much space. The theming in general is relatively level in terms of you can add on to things to bring it to life a little bit more in the way that you had envisaged the 1920s. So a couple of ideas that we came up with as a team were New Orleans in the 1920s. So as the top left image shows, adding in a pop of colour, bringing to life the home of jazz, potentially putting in a live saxophonist alongside your DJ to give it a bit of a modern twist. And alternatively, you can go down the classic Gatsby route, have all of your servers in waistcoats and trilbies and tall champagne coupes, and yeah, plenty of decadent dancing throughout the night. So even with a space like that, you could have a Charleston lesson if you fancied it. Another idea is potentially doing something a little bit more mysterious. How about touching on the Prohibition era, taking off 30 of your colleagues into a private bar? Yet there really are so many options in this space that are really exciting. So do consider it if you're looking for a 20s theme this Christmas.
And our next theme is a theme within a theme. So it's taking place at the brewery, which is located in the city, kind of equidistant from Moorgate to Old Street, and even bank stations. It's walkable, so it's very, very central and easy to get to. The theme within the theme, so we can see it's enchantment under the ocean. However, it's taking place in the context of a 1950s high school prom. So a bit of a mix of Greece under the ocean. They've created this fictional high school of Chiswell Valley High, who is putting it on. So you're becoming a student for the night. And as you can see, a lot of the decoration is going to be nautical themed. So I think mermaids, plenty of tropical fish, seaweed, coral, and jellyfish hanging from the ceilings and things like that. Now the brewery, again, they do put packages together, and they are coming in at just over £120 per person, or maybe a little bit higher, up to about £140 per person for a seated dinner. The brewery itself does have plenty of different rooms. So the room you can see here is their largest, and you'd be looking up to about 500 people. However, they have plenty of other spaces if you're looking for something a little bit more intimate, or a little bit more private. So you definitely have the options there. They do package things up, as I say, and there is plenty of entertainment and plenty of upgrades that you can add to this one as well. So you can either kind of go with Greece or under the ocean, or a bit of both.
So as Claire mentioned, obviously because there is a theme in a theme, there is sort of a lot of option we can focus on from a theming entertainment perspective. If you wanted to go down the 1950s route, then sort of you could do a rock and roll inspired photo scene perhaps. The venue does include a late night DJ within their package, but one option that we thought would work really well and a lot of fun would be to upgrade to a swing band. So again, already kicking into the 1950s, but actually for a prom as well, you're ticking both boxes perfectly. You could include upgrade cocktails, or perhaps if you're having a seated dinner, then include sort of upgrading the table centerpieces, sort of coral inspired or scallop shells throughout. And then similar to the photos on your screen, you could have balloon displays, sort of creating that bubble effect, almost like bubbles are floating to the top of the sea surface.
Exhibition London. So this venue is based in White City, really close to the shopping centre. It can host 1,400 stands in and about 650 for a dinner dance. This is actually a brand new venue by Venue Lab, and actually only opened in October 2019. During the Christmas run, it's run by Ultimate Experience, who again have lots of different summer and Christmas venues across London. In terms of theming, there won't necessarily be a Christmas theme put in this year. However, there will be kind of light festive decor, and they will be putting in a fully inclusive package with a huge amount of AV and production in what would normally be a dry hire venue. One thing to note is that this venue doesn't need a huge amount of decor because it is just filled with tons of Victorian characteristics. They've got, you know, high ceilings and tiled walls. It's really beautiful. Package wise, it would be running from about 150 to 180 pounds per person, but again, that does depend on the day of the week and the kind of style that you're looking to go for.
So Story were lucky enough to work alongside Ultimate Experience last year and one of our clients to create one of the first Christmas parties in the actual space last season, and that was Vintage Circus. The theme worked incredibly well in there for a number of reasons. The first I'd like to touch on is the fact that there is a downstairs space as well as the upstairs space, which we saw in the previous slide. Downstairs has slightly lower ceilings. It's still quite large. It's normally used for gigs throughout the rest of the year. We turned this into a more of a chilled out area for the guests that didn't necessarily want to get as involved with the dancing and the drinking upstairs. But we included ring toss, we included giant Jenga, plenty of plush soft seating, so those colleagues could still relax and, you know, have fun in their own way. Then upstairs, we had a very dramatic shift. Now, as Eve said, this space doesn't necessarily need this. However, with the, I would say, very comprehensive production package that Ultimate Experience offer over the Christmas period, it gives you room to explore and really expand your horizons, and also the very tall ceilings allow you to do that. So we had red and white circus tent draping from the ceilings. We had multiple circular satellite stages, which created a dramatic reveal with all of the performers, stilt walkers, hula hoopers, contortionists, and aerial acts, in fact, from the trust, coming in simultaneously, really wowing guests. As I mentioned, the height of the ceilings, I thought I'd tell you a story about trying to get a 6-foot giraffe into the building, and the client turned to me being like, can we make it any bigger? You have the capacity to do that. So that's a really exciting prospect when you're working in a space like that.
Okay, and last but not least, we come to the Prince, which is one of the ever-growing Incipio group. They're located in West London, so the nearest station is West Brompton, but you're not far from Kensington at all. And as you can see, it is a pretty well-themed venue already, although it's got rather a summer florally look. However, don't be fooled, because it is a year-round venue, and it is very adaptable to the winter months. So you've got retracted roofs, and you can also furnish it with plenty of blankets and things like that. Now the capacity is 800, and that's seated or standing, which is because, as you can see, there's plenty of furniture included, but that can't be moved, unfortunately. But at least it offers everyone the chance to kind of sit down, sit together and enjoy their meal if they want, or casual seating as the evening goes on. Now the venue don't put packages together as such. They work on a minimum spend basis. So you're looking at about £20,000 to £25,000 all in, which, given the size of the venue, is actually works out really cost effective. And the food offering is from a range of street food vendors. So you've got that really kind of casual, non-Christmassy style offering there. You can choose what you want, and there's also plenty of bars and vendors available, meaning that queuing and crowds isn't really a problem at this venue, and they've got it really, really well worked out.
So as Claire mentioned, this could be considered quite a summery venue. However, I wanted to kind of give an example of how we would then try and twist that on its head. So because there are so many florals within this space, we thought that a neon jungle would work perfectly. Guests can fully immerse themselves into this theme, almost the brighter the better as far as dress code is concerned. Think fluorescent clothing, UV paint, light up trainers. It's a very, hugely visual theme, and it definitely would make any Christmas party stand out. Although the venue does work on minimum spends, it doesn't mean you can't put sort of packages together. We can work on creating unlimited drinks packages, or perhaps having spirits kicking in later in the evening, if that is what you so choose. And then from the entertainment perspective, we thought of having creatures of the jungle meeting guests. So these beautiful stilt walkers dressed in these amazing outfits, sort of peacocks and flamingos, sort of doing a meet and greet and then walking around and mingling with the guests. You could have LED drummers, which could create an incredible live performance with high impact drumming, dynamic choreography and beautiful light displays would really make that wow moment. And then sort of neon and glitter artists, perhaps some UV tattoos, and then the neon photo booth sort of as an additional option. Everyone obviously loves the photo booth, especially over Christmas period, so it's always a really nice touch and then continues that theme. And then finally, a trend that we found is coming back with full force is silent disco. So with the location of the venue, it might be that sound restrictions need to be in place. So having a silent disco is a great way to get around this. But obviously then also having the LED headphones means that it ties in perfectly with the theme, and it means that everyone can dance away and listen to music that they love.
Perfect. So that comes to conclude our presentation. So I've just been having a look, and we've had a number of questions. So we'll work through those. So first up, what question did we have? So a few questions. All the themes so far look great. If companies are brave enough to book, what are the terms if you could not put these events on? If social distancing is still in place, can you adapt these events, or do you have a plan for this? And actually we've got another one that's quite similar in that regard. Now, obviously, as I sort of touched upon at the beginning, there's a lot that we are still learning all the time with the ever-changing guidelines and guidance that we're getting, and absolutely a lot of conversations that we've been initially having, and with some of our venue partners as well, have been around things like in terms of the capacity, if perhaps some sort of social distancing and therefore further space is required in the venues, and obviously some of the venues that we touched upon today would certainly allow for that, and likewise in terms of the terms and things like that, we are finding that more and more that when we speak to venues, they are being very as flexible as they possibly can be, and obviously it is case by case, but they absolutely are trying to do what they can to alleviate any concerns and allow people to perhaps make some decisions, but with the flexibility of which that perhaps in certain circumstances that the event could take place within the following 12 months at a date that's convenient for both parties. So what I would advise is, if you've got any questions like that, do by all means ask us. We've got some great venue relationships, and we can certainly give you any guidance and advice if that's something that you're sort of a bit concerned about and worried about being able to perhaps move forward with your decisions. So hopefully that helps to answer that. Another question. Are these venues flexible given the current situation? I think I probably did sort of touch upon that one a little bit, but yes, overwhelmingly we are finding that they are. They're very understanding about postponement clauses, and obviously where perhaps events aren't able to actually take place at all with government guidance, then some cancellations have been allowed to happen. So again, just keep talking, and we're very, very happy to offer any guidance here if we possibly can. Please do just ask. Claire, I think this is one that I think you could answer. What about for smaller companies around 80 to 100 people, or do you just focus on larger venues?
Yeah, definitely. So yes, the selection that we've showed today are primarily slightly larger venues, and it does tend to be because they incorporate the themes and spend a lot of money each year incorporating the themes. However, we work across a huge range of venues in London, I think well over 1,500, and they range in size from the small and intimate right up until to the huge kind of exhibition spaces. So by all means, there are plenty of smaller venues available, and some do theme as well, and we're well versed in those. So if you had any inquiries or questions about slightly smaller parties, then absolutely do send them across, because we can handle any size of party for you.
Thank you. And then I've got a question here for Eve. Hi, Vaults team, although we're Venue Search London Story. Have you cleared your theme and event with the Harry Potter franchise team?
Hi, yeah, so just with that, it isn't actually a Harry Potter theme as such, but they have definitely obviously taken some inspiration. The Vaults are working with a comic brand and theatre production team called Fat Rascal Pop, I believe. So it's in collaboration with them, and they are very much taking inspiration from the kind of wizardry world, but it isn't a Harry Potter theme as such.
Okay, thank you. And another question, one for us all, I think. What is your favourite theme of all time? Shall we start with Chloe?
Yeah, sure. So we've actually touched on my favourite theme. So the vintage circus that we did last Christmas was one of mine on my bucket list to do. So I'm very excited about that. I think another theme that I've seen in the past that I really enjoyed was a dark Disney theme, something that's a little bit twisted and turns, kind of makes people expect the unexpected. That kind of feeling for me really excites me, and I love something a little bit dramatic, a little bit theatrical. Yeah, that's my answer.
Perfect. And Lulu?
So one event that we did last Christmas season was based with a venue that had a sort of a basic sort of geometric theme, but it wasn't sort of named anything. So we worked with our clients to sort of create a theme for them that was all that glitters, and it was a fantastic event, and it included various different surprise elements throughout the evening. There was an orchestra playing, we had a magician doing a live magic show. There was a flash mob throughout the evening, so lots of different twists and turns, but it was amazing to see that sort of the geometric shapes then inspired through to create this bespoke theme for our client, and then there was various different elements that we brought in to create that. So it was really exciting and really lovely to be a part of.
Perfect. And Claire?
So I would say, well, my favourite hobby is eating, and as I'm sure we're all finding during this lockdown. So I love any kind of interactive menus, interactive food. So one of my favourite films is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I can't watch it without eating. And so anything that you can bring that into is probably one of my favourite things to do. So I love, if you can kind of make things you wouldn't think were edible. If you can pick a flower off a tree, or pick a branch off a tree, and that's edible. You can get things now like edible bubbles, and they'll kind of be floating around and taste like all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So yeah, I would say that's my favorite kind of theme, is a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style theme.
Yeah, perfect. And Eve?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, there was a load of people doing the Feast of Bacchus for Christmas. And if you don't know, Bacchus is the god of wine and mischief and parties and other things that we probably shouldn't say. And the vaults, as they do, always went a little bit darker, and they had divine proportions, and they just took it a little bit further. And I really like when the theming is quite dark. I just think it's just so much more, like it draws you in so much more. And obviously it had lots of wine and food, so as Claire said, it's one of my favorite hobbies.
Perfect. And yeah, and I've been thinking about what I think mine might be, and I think the great thing about our job is that actually I feel like you don't ever need to choose, because and my view changes all the time, but I would say that overall I really enjoy a theme where you sort of are taken on a bit of a journey, and where you start during the drinks reception, and then you move through into the dinner, and then there's acts and things that break it up, so that no one's really sure what's coming next, and it keeps everyone sort of guessing and interested a bit more, and definitely sort of immersive elements certainly now I think just add a real new dimension to things. So yeah, I'd say that's probably where I would sit. Right, so I think we've got a couple more questions. So one here, if capacities need to be lower, and I assume they're meaning in terms of if social distancing is still in place, will prices be higher per person? Now, obviously, historically, as I'm sure many of you know, a lot of venues pricing does vary depending on the numbers. What I would say is at the moment, I would say the client is in the stronger negotiating position here, and certainly I don't anticipate any huge increases, and I think all of these things should be very much openly discussed right at the point of inquiry. And as I've said, touched upon already, client venues are being incredibly flexible. We've got very good relationships with a number of the venues, and we know that they're keen to make this work. We're all in this situation together, and they want, as we all do, want to be able to host events when we're safe and able to. And so with that in mind, things like that definitely should be discussed openly, and I would like to think that there would be a satisfactory resolution for all. And I think this is the final question. We've got a number of venues already pulling their buffets from menu offerings due to the risk of contamination and infection. Some of these venues are still noting buffets. Is that a definite, or is it on the cards to move to a different food and beverage format? If so, will it also change the cost per head? A very good question, very valid, especially at this time. If I'm honest, as I sit here right now, no one can be sure of what the food service may look like in come December, because obviously government guidance hasn't necessarily been fully established yet. I would say there's absolutely nothing definite about anything at the moment, and certainly venues are adapting and trying to come up with relevant options at all points. And they absolutely are trying to be as flexible as possible. And from all the venues that we trust and work with, we know that they will do all that they can to ensure that the offering is the most safe and most safe distribution way of doing it. But obviously things are ever evolving, and I would expect that those things will continue to be at the forefront of the venue's plans as they look to move forward into hopefully being able to reopen. So I think that is all of the questions that we've had. So yeah, all that leaves me to say is thank you all very much for listening. We know as we sit here today that many people will be unsure of plans and feeling quite uncertain with, and perhaps even hesitant to make any firm plans, and of course we completely understand that, but just wanted you to know that we are very much here. So if you've got any questions, or you want to discuss some sort of very initial ideas and thoughts that you've got for any plans, then please do get in touch. We're very much working and would love nothing else than to chat, and we love talking about events. Our email addresses are down there, and also you are able to obviously find us on various social channels. As you may have seen from various bits and pieces, we are today sponsoring the NSPCC, and of course charities right now can do really benefit from any form of contribution at all. So if you have enjoyed today and you do feel that you've got some spare pennies, I know that every little would really help. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to hopefully hearing from you soon. Thank you.